Blue Ink by Elizabeth Scarhart and Snowball the Snowflake. Illustrated by Snowball the Snowflake. Narrated by Elizabeth Scarhart. Chapter 3. Life After Destruction. Papyrus had his hands over his brother's eye sockets as he let him outside. Once the door had shut behind them, he lifted them, revealing what looked like a motorbike, but with several extra gears, giving it a steampunk-like appearance.
Well, it took a few weeks, but we finally got it. A device specifically for interdimensional travel.
Whoa!
Sans excitedly ran up to it, examining it closely before hopping on.
It looks so cool! Thanks, Pappy. Where's Undyne? I want to thank her too.
She's pooped from putting this together. I'll let her know you love it, though,
Papyrus said.
So, ready to take it for a spin?
Sans nodded and started it up. The engine roared to life, and a button push opened a hole into the antivoid.
See you later, brother. I'm off to locate Ink.
He waved to the tall skeleton, who wished him luck. He then zoomed through the portal that closed behind him. The void was just as he remembered it. White. Lifeless. It was hard to believe someone like Ink would live in a place like this. Then again, it did look like a giant piece of paper. Sans had no way of knowing which direction he was headed or where to find Ink. He simply started up the bike and drove forward, hoping for the best. Hours passed. Or at least it felt like hours. Sans lost all concept of time very quickly. That was another thing he remembered from his imprisonment. The feeling of time not existing. There was nothing to measure its passing other than his own breaths. Sans grew tired and hungry. He also knew that soon he'd run out of fuel. But he pressed forward. He had to keep searching until the last possible minute. He had to make sure Ink was all right.
Sans?
Relief washed over Sans as a familiar voice was heard. He stopped the bike and turned. There stood Ink in front of a... zipper?
What are you doing here? Or better yet, how are you here?
Ink asked.
Papyrus asked Undyne to invent this so I could travel to see you.
Sans replied.
I was worried about you. You've been living with error this whole time. Yeah, and if he sees you here, you're going to have a bad time.
Ink warned.
Here, follow me.
Ink unzipped the zipper and Sans dismounted the motorbike following him. Inside the zipper looked like the inside of a Picasso painting. Everything was made of colorful shapes of all sizes. They didn't always match up, but you could still tell what everything was.
Error can't touch this place. We can talk safely here.
Ink said. He sat down on his couch, and Sans sat next to him.
Nice place. You really made a cool pocket for yourself.
Sans smiled.
So Error can't harm you as long as you stay in here? That's good to know. See, I told you have nothing to worry about.
Ink smiled. But Sans still felt he had much to worry about. Ink looked tired. Bags were forming under his eyes. His color also seemed off.
I do appreciate you checking on me, but Error's still after you. If you keep coming here, you'll practically be turning yourself in. I don't want you to get hurt. He is? Why?
Sans asked, alarmed.
If he gets a hold of you, he can try to destroy your universe. It came close to working last time. No doubt he wants to try a similar approach.
Ink told him.
I don't want you to get hurt, so please, stay in your universe. It's easier for me to protect you if I know where you are.
Sans shook his head.
This isn't about me. I can't leave you to deal with him alone on a daily basis. Even if he can't physically hurt you, you shouldn't have to live with the guy. That's just how it works.
Ink said, refusing to meet Sans' eyes. After several moments of silence, he said,
It's been like this since we were created. What do you mean?
Sans asked.
Where do you come from? Why do you encourage and inspire creativity? Why do you fight error? It's a long story,
Ink said.
But if you're willing to listen, I guess you earned the right to hear it. You came all this way here after all.
He took a deep breath, rubbing his eye sockets with his index finger and thumb. Sans got comfortable and waited patiently for Ink to begin. It must have been a difficult story.
Okay, remember how I told you that a lot of universes have you in it, but they're all different somehow?
Sans nodded.
Well, once upon a time, there was a universe where you were a lot like your brother. Lazy, always hanging out at a restaurant, Still had your love of jokes, though. He was a sentry and a scientist, but there was really only one thing he truly cared about. His brother. His brother was the only family he had left. He'd had a hard life, but his brother always gave him a reason to keep hoping for the better. The two were possibly even closer than you and Papyrus are. But it didn't last. A human possessed by an evil spirit came to the underground and began to kill mercilessly. The child was powerful and manipulative, and felt nothing towards the lives they took. Among those killed was Sans' brother. He was beheaded while offering a hand of friendship to the child. The Sans of that universe ran ahead and used every ounce of his power to try to stop the child from killing the king and avenge his fallen brother. They fought for hours, each falling and rising, over and over and over. It seemed that there was no way to end it. But in the middle of the battle, at the very second the human died, there was a huge anomaly, and time itself seemed to reset. For reasons beyond either of our comprehensions, this led to that Sans splitting into two identities. The first identity contained the creativity he had as a scientist, as well as his will to protect others, especially those he cared about. With no sad memories to hold him back, he became the embodiment of creativity and donned the name Ink.
Sans' eyes widened.
So, you're part of that Sans? That's incredible, heartbreaking, and really cool all at the same time.
Ink laughed.
Pretty good description. And before you express any condolences over a lost brother, I really have no memories whatsoever about being that Sans, so I really don't feel sad or anything about it.
So if you're one of the beings created from that split, then the other...
Sans slowly put together the other half of the equation.
Yes. The rest became error. He had all his memories, anger, and griefs. He saw that the anomaly had let the human live and not him, and it twisted his sanity. After failing to stop the human in this new form, he destroyed the universe, solidifying his place as the embodiment of destruction. Now neither of us are tied to any world. The antivoid is all that's left of the world we once lived in. And from its damaged walls, we can enter other worlds or even go beyond. Error and I fight because we have to keep each other in check. However, Error does not understand this. He's too driven by purpose. So really, I'm the only one keeping anything in check by fulfilling my role to the best extent. Until Error realizes he's abusing his position, the two of us will always fight.
Sans was quiet for a moment. Ink had a hard life. How was he able to smile each time they met? How had he not given up? Without thinking, he grabbed Ink in a hug. He frowned a little when he did. Was it just him, or did Ink seem a little warm? Ink was frozen, confused for a moment, before returning the hug.
Hey, I'm okay. It's not a bad life.
Sans pulled away, and Ink wiped Sans' tears.
I get to see amazing worlds that have been created by the most unlikely of beings. Creatures you couldn't fathom. Sights I wish I could share with everyone for their sheer beauty. I don't just fight because I have to. I fight because I truly do want to protect those worlds and promote the creation of new ones. So don't cry. And don't worry about me. Everything's okay.
Sans nodded, sniffling. Ink quickly painted a handkerchief and handed it to Sans to blow his nose socket with.
Thank you.
Sans told him.
I'm glad to know what's going on. But I still want to help any way I can.
Well, right now you can help by making sure Error doesn't find you. Let's get you back. Though, can I have a ride to Snowden? I'd love to see what Undyne and Papyrus made.
Ink's natural love of all things created rose to the surface.
Of course!
Sans grinned.
I know, I love it as real.
Sans and Ink both laughed before heading out of the pocket. A broken voice greeted them.
Well, please explain more cycle.
Ink quickly leapt in front of Sans, grabbing his brush. Error attempted to ensnare Sans in strings again, but Ink created a sword to cut.
Stay away from him, Error. He's not your puppet.
Ink said, pointing his brush at Error. He would not let this thing use Sans again.
Just try and stop me from taking care of him.
Error summoned a blaster, aimed at Ink, but Ink countered with his own rainbow-shooting blaster. The countering blast sent them both back.
Sans, get to your motorbike and get home. I'll cover you.
Ink told him. Seeing the worry, he added,
It's okay. I know what I'm doing.
Sans reluctantly nodded and ran towards the motorbike. Ink ran alongside him, painting a wall as he went to protect Sans from physical attacks. Error growled and focused his attacks on Ink, but Ink turned into his paint form again and again to avoid being hit. This worked until Error summoned another blaster. Ink dove in order to avoid being hit, but in the process Sans was left vulnerable, even though they were now inches away from the bike. Error threw more strings at Sans, but Ink thrusted his brush upward, using it to deflect them. He stood as Sans made the rest of the way to the bike. He started up the engine, but instead of immediately returning home, he turned and rode it straight at Error. Error wasn't fast enough to react and was thrown back by the impact. Critically wounded, he retreated. Sans sighed, relieved he hadn't killed Error. Evil or no, he didn't want to take a life. Besides, if he had understood the story correctly, it was important that both sides lived. He turned to see if Ink was okay, and was instantly alarmed. Ink was trembling. He was leaning on his brush for support. There was a clatter and a thud as Ink collapsed, unconscious. Okay, remember how I told you a lot of universes have you in it, but they're all different somehow? Microsoft Word, why are you opening up? I did not click you. Anomaly. I have so much trouble saying that word. Anomaly. 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 There we go. Ink quickly action sequences. My mortal enemy. Error attempted to ensnare Sans and strings. Say that 10 times fast.